my first introduction to Foster's, I think it was actually somebody from Milton Keynes. I'd been doing work in Milton Keynes, and she went to Foster's and she got me an intro to Foster's. And the first thing I photographed there was a model of their Whitney Museum development project. And that was, I think, in 1978. So over 40 odd years, I've probably photographed hundreds of models. I've photographed a good few buildings, and I photographed Norman in his helicopter, in his car. And I also took a picture of him standing on a no-moss table once as well, which was actually rather good. So, you know, it's been a real privilege to be part of the office and to be accepted in that way. I also photographed models in the studio, but it was always exciting to take models out into the natural light. Luckily, most of them came back safe and sound, but I did have one disaster. When I was asked by Norman to photograph the dome of the Reichstag, and he wanted a picture. The model shop had made this beautiful model, very delicate, and the idea was to photograph from underneath. And it was great to do it in the sunshine, because in the studio you'd never have enough background. And I'd made a little sort of cantilever from the roof rack of my car to place the model on, and I placed it on the model, and I set my camera up underneath, and there was a little breeze, and the model just lifted up and spun round. It went quite high, actually, and as it dropped, I made a grab for it, and it just fell apart in my hands. And I took it, put it all back in the box, all these little bits of plastic, and took it back to Chris Windsor in the model shop, who was very graciously forgiving, actually. And I think about 2 days later, they'd reconstructed it, and I took it back there again, obviously made it slightly more secure. So the aerodynamics of the dome are pretty amazing. I think my favorite building was the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank. And that's because it was one of the earliest jobs I did at Foster's, and I was responsible for producing the photo montages of the bank. And they were done before computers. So I was sent there, I guess, you know, in maybe 79, I'm not sure. And I had 2 or 3 weeks. The office would ring up and they'd say, "Richard, how's it going?" I'd say, "It's still raining." And so when it wasn't raining, I went to every building around the site. I went to the top of lots of buildings and all around, and photographed the site from lots of different angles. And then I had to come home and photograph the model. And because everything was being put together by hand, you know, mechanically, rather than digitally, I had to photograph the model from exactly the same perspective that I had been when I was at the top of a building in Hong Kong. And I spent hours, you know, cutting up little bits of Polaroid film and laying them on the background and hoping to get them to fit in.